Some people are having trouble with this animation for the Explore section of water regulation. So I'm just going to show you a quick video that kind of show you the basics of what it is. So the problem is that it's Flash based animation, and so Flash is an older system of animation, and some browsers don't allow Flash, some computers don't allow it, so some of you are having trouble with it. So what I'm going to do is just sort of go through the animation here. I'll record this video, and then you could replay it as many times as you need to get the idea. Okay, so this represents a kidney, arteries and veins bringing blood to the kidney, and then we'll continue here. This is the ureter that's taking the urine produced by the kidney down to the bladder. Okay, as we zoom in here, the kidney is made of many of these individual units called nephrons. Okay, what you see here in this color, this is the nephron. Okay, and what you see in red is the blood vessel that feeds blood to those nephrons and then brings the blood out. So this shows an individual nephron. We have blood coming in. We have the blood going out. So this is blood coming in that has not yet been filtered. Okay, and the job of these nephrons are to filter that blood, to take out certain molecules, to retain certain molecules in the body, and eventually release excess waste as urine. This animation, what you can do is you can click on one of these substances that's found in the blood, and then you can see what happens to it as it travels through these nephrons of the kidney. So I'll do that for each one of these. So what you can see here for the urea is that as the blood gets forced into this renal capsule, okay, some of the plasma along with dissolved substances gets forced out into these tubes of the nephron, okay, and travel through those tubes. The blood cells remain in the blood, and then as these materials that are moved into the filtrate and travel through these tubes of the nephron, some of them can be reabsorbed back into the blood again. So they come out of the blood here but might be reabsorbed. So we just looked at urea. Let's look next at glucose. Oh, sorry. Let's look at glucose moving. Okay, so you can see glucose there. Let's look at water. Now what you notice with the water is that some went back into the blood, some stayed in those tubules. Okay, protein. Okay, and now we'll do sodium. Now you notice the sodium is that some stays in those tubules, some stays in the blood, and some stays in this tissue that makes up the kidney. Okay, so we've seen each of those substances and what happens to them. We can look here as well. Okay, so what you're seeing is this is the part inside the capsule. Okay, this is the blood. Okay, and what we see is what happens to some of these molecules, okay, as they enter the capsule. We could look in this initial section. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, and again, what we see here, molecules moving into the blood, okay, as well as molecules that are moving into. What we can see is if we hover over some of these are carrier proteins. Again, as we know, they're embedded in the cell membrane, allowing certain materials to pass through. And you can see there's different types of carrier proteins that transport some of these materials across the cell membrane. Okay, they're specific for certain molecules. Okay. You could also see, the other thing I wanted to point out is, okay, this. Now what you'll notice with the sodium is you have ATP involved. So again, when ATP is involved, that's a form of active transport. Okay, so this protein right here, transporting sodium, okay, across the membrane, relies on ATP. Okay. The loop of Henle is this long loop that travels down here, and what happens is as molecules are moving through, some molecules move back and forth across that membrane, and so just pause this here. Okay, so that the loop coming down is permeable to water, so some of the water diffuses out of that loop. Okay, I'm going to just play this briefly. Okay, this is showing the concentration of sodium as this filtrate moves through the loop of Henle. Okay, again, notice the arrows are showing diffusion versus active transport, and then some areas diffusion is moving these molecules across the membrane, and other areas active transport is moving those molecules. And what you see happening here is the concentration of sodium, okay, inside this tissue of the medulla is becoming higher in sodium. Okay. Okay. And then again, what we have here is this collecting duct, which shows the duct that's taking that urine. The medulla tissue we just looked at, which is high in sodium, and then we have a capillary here. Okay, we also can see what happens when the hormone ADH, okay, antidiuretic hormone, is released. It has an impact on these tissues, causing water to be taken into the blood, increasing the amount of water in the blood. And again, here you just see the last thing. This is showing the effects of ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and how this hormone, which again binds to receptor molecules, okay, to activate enzymes, okay, which then have an influence inside of the cell. There are other molecules involved here. But when you look at sort of the overall motion, what's going on here. You have this hormone which affects a change inside of the cell, changing the shape, which creates these small pores, allowing water to then diffuse out so that water can be retained by the body. Okay, so that's what this animation is showing you. You have it in the video form if you need to rewatch it to help you finish that section of our notes.